So welcome to a new series of the Makeup Beginner series where I basically just tell you about makeup steps as if you were a child, because that's the best way to explain things to people where you don't know what kind of knowledge base they have. And today we're talking about bronzer slash contour slash is it the fucking same? I'm sorry for some of the noises outside, but we do have some workers out there and I just cannot wait with filming anymore because it's already noon. Let's take out our trusty color wheel again, because there is a difference between a bronzer and a contour. A bronzer is a brown color that has added these types of colors, warm shades. Some bronzers will lean very orange and red. Some bronzers, even depending on your own skin type and skin undertone, very, very important here, can also have some green in them, because the bronzer is there to mimic the shade that your skin turns when you get a tan. That is basically what bronzer is for. A contour, on the other side, is not there to mimic the sun. A contour is there to give shadow to your face. You structure your features with a contour shade, and a contour shade there is basically a brown that, depending on the type of contour that is matching your skin tone, has these undertones to it. It's basically cool toned and warm toned. A very good example to show you what exactly I mean is actually the Blend Bunny Forget Me Not palette, because this is a face and eye palette and you have different types of powders in there. I think a very good example of the difference between a contour and a bronzer are these two shades. This one is the shade Remember. This is a grayish, cool toned brown. A lot of the undertones in this is probably very blue leaning, while Anticipation is a bronzer. This has some reddish orange undertones to it. I swatched them for you side by side so the difference is much more clearer. So here you have the cool toned contour shade that you use to embrace your bone structure, and this is the warm toned bronzer shade that is there to mimic the impact of sun on your face. But we're talking about the positive impact, like the tan, not the cancer. And depending on what you like, we can now also divide the bronzers and contours into powder format and cream format, or even liquid. I personally think that the most popular liquid contour is the Charlotte Tilbury Contour Wand. This is definitely a liquid version, but it has one of those squishy sponges on top, so you have a much easier application. A kind of dupe for it that, in my opinion, leans very, very between bronzer and contour. And yes, there are people who call it the Brontour when you have a very neutral undertone, is the Tarte Sculpt Tape. This is basically the same format, but I think the shade is a bit different. And I actually prefer this formula over the Charlotte Tilbury one. But you can also get liquid contours in a form like that. That is it's liquid inside, but you have a doe foot and then you can draw on the stripe. Besides the liquid versions, you also have them as a cream version. A very popular contour cream, and I'm specifically saying a contour cream, is actually the Fenty Cheeks Out in the shade Amber. This is a straight up gray contour. There is mostly gray in there, a bit of a blue undertone going on for the coolness, and just the tiniest amount of brown skin tone mimicking things. This is a great, great contour shade. This is nothing you should over apply, because you either end up looking with a gray stripe or you might end up looking dead. A great bronzing cream though is the NARS Laguna Bronzing Cream. This is much warmer. Let me show you them side by side. I think that this is the most distinct difference that I have somewhere in my collection. This is, I don't know how to explain it better, what the contour and the bronzer is. It's very, very different. And the market is flooded with products like that. Let me show you just some of my favorites beside this one. Very new but very good is the Vive Contour Cream, or this is a Modern Radiance Cream bronzer. This is also not a contour cream. This is in the shade Light, and this has a nice neutral undertone. And one of my recent favorites, and actually the one I would recommend starting out if you're new to that whole cream bronzer, cream contour thing, is the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer, because this is technically a bronzer, but depending on the shade that you get, this is light, this is quite warm. I also have light medium that has a bit more of a neutralish cool undertone. Since this is so sheer, you can apply this sloppy. You don't have to be super precise. You can blend this out quite easy. It applies just so sheer that for me, for example, I would build this up because it is too sheer for my liking, but that's why I like it so much. But besides liquid and cream in a pot, you can also buy them in a stick format. And I think the stick format is probably the easiest one to use because you actually, you can apply this from a stick. And if you're clever, you buy a stick that has a brush attached to it, so you don't even need an extra brush. And a very good one, in my opinion, is also the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Shaping Stick, because this comes two-sided. You have the stick on one side, and you can also use the brush on the other side. I think this product works miracles. I personally really enjoy this, and I'm quite surprised on that because I thought Makeup by Mario is so not my vibe, but it is. A very good selection of different undertones and depth, in my opinion, has Fenty. Fenty not only has the Cheeks Out cream in the pan, but they also have the Fenty Match Sticks. And you have so many different colors, undertones, bronzer, contour. And my personal favorite, and the only one that I currently have, is the shade Amber Suede. This is so neutral, I cannot say that this is a contour or bronzer. This is like right in between. And if you are like me and you like more of a high-endish luxury vibe, then you should probably take a look into the Westman Atelier, what are they called? The Face Trace Contour Sticks. I think they have 4 or 5 shades. This one is Biscuit, this is the lightest one, and this is, in my opinion, like a very true contour shade for me. In the end, it is very important when you want to contour, you need a brownish shade with a cool, grayish, bluish undertone. But maybe, depending on your overall undertone, you can also might need a contour that has more of a purpley undertone. In the end, it is all that you just need to try. What you can do for contour is you can, for example, take a flashlight from your phone and then just hold it in different angles on your face and see how does the shadow look like that is casted by my own structure. Because contour for, I think, everyday makeup is there to enhance your bone structure. You can also use your fingers and just touch around your face. So I think very easy to find is the brow bone that is here, and when we talk about eyeshadow we will touch on that too, because your crease color that you usually apply, depending on the eye look you want to achieve, is there to enhance the crease, to create more depth in the crease. That's what you do with contour too. And when you just go around your face, you might feel somewhere around this area your cheekbones. And for me, my cheekbones are here and they end like here. So that is the area where I want to contour. A bronzer, on the other side, is not there to hollow you out. It's not there to create shadow. It's there to create warmth. And the easiest way to find out what shade of bronzer you need is go out in the sun. Tan yourself, of course, wear SPF. And then just look what kind of tone your skin turns into, because that is what you need. Some people get more of a reddish brown, some people have more of a warm orange going on, some people are more neutral. It all depends on how your melanin is reacting with the sun. And while a contour is applied to the deeper parts underneath your bones, a bronzer is applied on top of this. So for example, if you want to contour your forehead, you would apply a contour more like here on the temple area, because this bone that you have here has like this shape. So here is the highest point, then I have a little bit of a curve going on, and then a slight dent in on the temples, and that is where I would contour, while the bronzer I would apply on top of it, like on this area. Same on the cheeks. As I said, I would apply the contour here and the bronzer slightly above it because the sun is hitting on the highest points. But that's just theory. Makeup has a theory. Everything in makeup has kind of a theory going on. But your creativity and the way you use this on a daily basis, it's all up to you. You know, if you know Robert Welch, he always says that creativity, and he has this intro sentence, something with creativity knows no limits, but makeup has a theory, and that is very, very important. I think nearly nobody, not even professionals that I watch from time to time, do this exact contour bronzer thing. Most of the time they use both in the same area or a product as the other. When it comes to more intense artistic looks, or even we're heading into Halloween looks, of course, contouring can be very, 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 very important because, for example, if you wanna like mimic the look of a skull on your face, of course you don't want to bronze up your face, you contour the shit out of your face to create shadows. The internet is full of tricks on how to perfect contour and bronze, but in the end I have to say to you, follow your natural face shape. Same as with the concealer. There is no one does it all trick. It just isn't possible. Find out what type of face you have. I have a more rounded face. And for me, I should not contour this area here because it looks just weird. It would look like I have a dent here, while somebody with a more longer face and slimmer face, a contour that starts up here and goes down to here looks stunning. For me, it would look just ridiculous. And for today, for the application, I will be using the Makeup by Mario contour stick in light medium because this has more of a cooler undertone. And since my eye look already is very, very warm, I don't want to overdo it. You remember YouTube 2015, 2016, people were contouring like this. Don't do this. Most of the time, there is no need to apply a straight line on this area. See what I do. I do have this certain spot here. I don't even know if you can tell on camera, but when I see in the mirror, I have this shadow going on here. And this is actually a point where my face has a natural dent to it. And I can use this as basically orientation to apply the rest of the contour. So I take the stick, start here, and do this slight stripe upwards. I then take the brush that is attached to it and I start brushing this very, very softly upwards. That is important. You don't want to contour or bronze down. If you blend this out, you want to do somewhat of an upward motion or a circular motion. So when we talk about powder bronzer or contour, there is nothing like this is a cream, this is a pot. A powder is usually inside of a pan, and you of course have the same things here. Depending on the undertone, you have different shades of bronzers, you have different shades of contour. Some are more deep, some are more light, some are very sheer, some are not. When you are a beginner and you just want to dive into contour bronzer and all that stuff, I highly recommend going for something that is very light, maybe just a couple shades darker than your actual skin tone. One of these very light and just slightly deeper than my skin tone bronzers are for me the Charlotte Tilbury, the airbrush bronzer. This is also the only bronzer I have pan on because it is really good. And the thing is, this has a very, very neutral undertone, so it can double also as a contour, or it just in general does not matter where you apply it basically. And this is so sheer that you can build it up or you just leave it with one coat of bronzer. Very similar in texture but a bit warmer is the Fenty Sunstalker bronzer, and this is the shade In the Sun. Again, just the tiniest bit darker than my skin, but it is much warmer. It leaves a beautiful sun-kissed glow going on. I also can recommend the Pat McGrath bronzers because they are really, really good. And I do have the two lightest shades because they have a distinct difference in their undertone. So this one is the shade, what's it called? This is Naked Desire. And the other shade I have is Nude Honey. Have you seen it already? But here you have them side by side. So this one is much, much lighter, slightly more cool toned, while this one is surprisingly darker and warm toned. So it looks completely different on the skin, which I really, really like. Depending on your undertone, you might want to look for a bronzer that is not golden bronze or orange bronze. You might want to look for something pink. I know, sounds crazy, but a very good example for that is the MAC Skin Finish Matte Light Rosy, no, what the fuck, the name is very confusing. This is the Skin Finish Sunstruck Matte Bronzer, but the shade name is Light Rosy. And I think you can even tell this is warm, yes, but it has a rosy tint to it, which in my case makes a very natural bronze look. If you want to explore more of the high-end side of contour bronzer, I highly recommend checking out the Tom Ford Glow Bronzer. Tom Ford Glow Bronzer is the name. I have the shade Terra, which is the darker of the two, but I don't know if you can tell, but this also has a slight rosy tint going on. And since it is more cool toned in its undertone, I can use this as a wonderful contour shade. While the Hermes, the Hermes Plain Air Bronzer in the shade Totori is very, very warm. This is again one of those like the Fenty in the Sun or the Charlotte Tilbury one that is light, that is just a tiny bit darker than my skin tone. It has a very light coverage, I would say, or it's like not as opaque as other bronzers, but it is so warm toned that it leaves just a nice finish on the skin. Bronzers, and it doesn't matter if it is a cream or a powder bronzer, they sometimes can have shimmer to them, like golden sparkles, golden reflects, and that looks beautiful. Some of them even have like a metallic pigment going through them. The Hourglass bronzers are known for that. They are very luminous. They're not matte. And when it comes to bronzer, I think a luminous finish is something that you might want to achieve because, as I said, it's mimicking the impact of the sun. When you tan, you get a glowy face and it looks just stunning. Depending on your undertone, again, it's then not only important to see what kind of undertone does my bronzer have, but also what kind of shimmer is going on. Personally, I don't like shimmery bronzers. I have a few of the Hourglass ones in the face palettes, but I'm not the biggest fan of them. I just like a matte bronzer much more. When it comes to contour, you don't want to have glitter to it. You don't want to have some luminosity because, again, contour is shadow. Shadow is caused by something that is hit by light. You don't want to have light reflecting particles in that area. So keep that in mind when you contour. So the question is now how to fucking apply bronzer and contour. When you contour, you might want to focus the product on a specific area. Remember, I applied my stuff around here, and this is also the area I want to contour. For a contour, you might want to use a brush that is very precise and not so fluffy. My favorite, and I know this is so YouTube 2015, but my favorite still to this day is the NARS Ida brush because this is this flat shape and this just fits perfectly in this area. You can apply it in this motion and then just flick it up without distributing the product too much. While a bronzer you can add to a larger area. Some people even use large powder brushes to apply their bronzer. For example, let me grab one. This is a Area Techniques 201 brush. And what they do is they tap in the bronzer and then they go on the forehead, bit on the cheeks, on the chin, on the nose, and then you have this beautiful sun-kissed look. My favorite bronzer brush is actually also from NARS, and I cannot for the sake of my life tell you which one it is, but this is labeled as a blush brush. And today we're going to use that with this MAC bronzer. By the way, these Sunstruck bronzers are fairly new to that collection, and I hate this cheap lid. And what I do now is I coated the brush like that, And then I just apply it also in this area, and I stay a tiny bit above this contoured area, and I flick it up, and depending on the shade, I also use a little bit on the jawline and forehead. But I would not tap back in to add more color when I go to jawline and forehead, because I don't like that look. And there you have it. It is actually not that big of a secret. I know it can be super intimidating, but let me tell you a tiny secret for the end of the video. It's just makeup. It washes off. If you're unsure, do I like this look? Do I like the way this works? Do I like this? Do I like that? Casual Sunday, sit down with your makeup and just draw on your face. Remember, years ago, it was this technique, the 3 on your face. When you wanted to contour, you contour in this shape. You start up here, then here, and here. This is a helpful technique that can help you figuring out what kind of placement do you want to have. But as I said, there is actually no technique that is like one fits all. That's just impossible, because we all have very beautiful, but also very different shaped faces. So I hope I didn't forget anything about the whole contour and bronzer thing. It is, in my opinion, overcomplicated these days, because I myself, and now this is just my opinion, I use one product. I don't care if it's a contour or bronzer product, I usually use them in the same area, because for my face shape, I don't want to have to be over contoured. I don't want to look for the undertone. All of the products that I own, I can use in both ways. And since I have a round face, it also does not really make a difference to me. So if I forgot anything, if you have any questions left, please let me know down below. Don't forget to check out the info box, because there's like the TikTok, the Instagram, where you can buy me slices of pizza, because I'm still a fan of pizza, and I'm currently on a period and I just crave pizza so bad. Like real pizza, not the digital pizza. But the best kind of support is actually when you subscribe here and on the others. And I would love to see you again in my next video.